Kagurabachi 102 with T. Wow, yeah, Hokuzono does it again. Are we surprised? No. Is the chapter very confusing and have some things that we definitely need clearing up that don't really make much sense? Yeah, a little bit. Is it hype moments and aura? Definitely. Is this chapter review yet again just going to be straight Shiba glaze? Yeah, so the chapter begins with obviously Chihiro and Samura facing off against Yura, who's floating in the sky, and basically Yura and Samura have a little dialogue about how, you know, they've each changed their mind. Samura's kind of switched sides a bit, and Yura's decided to actually let the Swordmaster live and bring him back instead of killing him, because as Yura explains, the Swordmaster hasn't gone cuckoo. Well, okay, he has, but in Yura's mind, he hasn't gone cuckoo, because they both are the same type of crazy, and so he's like, well, I don't need to kill him, he was in his right mind, you know, let's just bring him back and get him to do the stuff all over again. And he's even said that the Swordmaster has properly stopped encroaching into his body, which means he has decent control over Magatsumi, which is pretty damn terrifying. The very important detail he adds here is that currently the Swordmaster is probing Yura's intentions. Now that's key to understanding this chapter, so keep it in mind, alright? I know you Kagurabachi fans are good at reading, okay? You're not JJK, you have a level of comprehension, alright? So just keep that in mind and we'll get into it in a bit. Yura then yaps about, you know, seeing a different future again, which like, bro, do you actually just have a future telling technique? You must just have a future telling technique. You yap about the future way too much, bro. But yeah, he kind of gives his little monologue about, oh, I'm gonna bring the Swordmaster back and I'm gonna prove to him these are my beliefs. You two are some worthy opponents and I'm gonna prove my resolve for using the enchanted blades to control and rule this country in order to bring order. Kunishige Rokuhiro was wrong. That guy was a burger. Screw that guy. What was he playing at? Trying to lock up the nuclear weapons. What the hell? We like nukes here. We're gonna use them to control the country and keep it safe. Said every crazy world leader ever, by the way. Anyway, Chihiro and Samura are not really having it. So what Yura does is he draws the first bit out of Magatsumi, and this is where we learn how Centipede really works. And then Chihiro sends a Kuro to one side, Samura sends a feather to one side, and they teleport to each side in an amazing page where we get dual EI White Purity style against Yura. And, like, to my absolute disbelief, and this is easily one of the most confusing parts of the chapter, Samura manages to cut straight through this man's shoulder. He should not be able to use his left arm anymore, alright? It should not be usable at all. And Chihiro manages to get a decent cut in his side, which is pretty cool. We get a little Yura flashback, and I say flashback, it's a panel, obviously, because Hokuzono just loves to, like, just edge us to, like, Anyway, people are saying this proves that he's from the island and saw the malediction. That could definitely be the case, but the way it's framed actually makes me wonder if he was a citizen of Japan and this is him witnessing what happened in the war and losing something, you know, before the Enchanted Blades got involved. This could be him losing stuff to the islanders, right? And then we get this amazing page where he uses Centipede, he spreads out the Centipede all around the city in an amazingly, like, dynamic panel, and we realize that how Centipede works is you basically bring up the blade and you slam it back down in the sheath to create a shockwave, alright? Which is really cool, and that shockwave hits Samura, it hits Chihiro, they tank it because they're built different like that, but it starts shredding the ground around them, and what we later learn is that there are still civilians in the buildings that haven't been evacuated yet, and Yura is going to target them to try and distract Samura, because Samura obviously will want to save them, to get an opening on him, and this is where we get to the objectively best part of the chapter, and one of the most badass moments in Kagurabachi so far, I'm not gonna lie. This is where things get a bit weird though, because the Hunter x Hunter narrator kicks in, alright? Goated character, by the way. Hunter x Hunter narrator Loki, the best character in the series. It's got nothing to do with Kagurabachi, I'm sorry. Yeah, and it says, it instantly takes the shockwaves that rock his body to reach people 300 meters away. I decided this just has to be a translation thing, like it's just not well worded, but based on what it says about Chihiro later, what I think this means is the shockwaves rock Samura's body and then go on to reach people 300 meters away past Samura. Some people thought it meant the shockwaves that rock Yura's body from being hit by the swords were then translated into damage, and that's why later in the chapter, Yura's wounds, you know, the wound that cut straight through his shoulder, have just magically healed and gone away. I don't think that's the case. It could be a thing, we don't know, but I think it's more about, you know, Samura, the shockwaves rock his body, because then the narrator continues to talk about Samura and explains that Samura can now see everything. Like, because he lost his eyesight, his other four senses were like superhuman level, but now that he's got his eyesight back, that's risen to the top of superhuman level, so he can see everyone in the area, and obviously he wants to save them, right? And this shockwave is now at the front door of a cafe, all right? It's at the front door of this building. It's shattering the glass as we speak, and Samura's looking away like, shit, I can't save them, bruv. Oh, nah. And Yura's like, yes, this is my opening. Samura's distracted. I'm going in for the kill. Before Like the glass is shattering. It's in the process of shattering. The front door is in the process of shattering, and there is like 11 people in this building that we see, right? Before the glass can fully break and even touch the floor, Shiba teleports in, gets everybody out. And not only that, but he has the time to stop. He looks at Samura and he goes, "Oi, you, focus." Bruv, this guy is never not aura farming. Huh? I'm sorry, he's too goated. Like, the glass cracks, Shiba appears. He literally just looks at Samura like, this guy somehow knows everything that's going on. Always. He always knows where to teleport to. He knows always what's going on in the place he's going to teleport to. He somehow even knew that Samura was looking over there being distracted, and he's only been there for like 0.00001 of a second, bro. How does he know everything? This guy just knows everything all the time. But he's in there, and he tells Samura to lock the fuck in, bro. He's pointing at one of the most powerful men in the history of Japan with his enchanted blade who fought in the war. And he goes, "Oi, you, lock in, bruv." I understand why Yura was so shook of this guy, bro. I'm sorry, but he's moving different. He pulled up, blitzed Yura, brought him all the way back outside, and now he's like clearing the area completely. He's on some Quicksilver, the Flash Minato shit, bro. He is the GOAT. And that panel of him just telling, like, Samura, oi, pay attention, bruv. And then getting everyone out of there before the glass even hits the floor is some next level. This is a feat and a half, because even in this chapter, Samura actually feels the shockwave from Centipede and says it's on a similar level to that of the Swordmaster. Now, I imagine the Swordmaster used the Centipede where he fully draws out the blade and slams it back in instead of just that little bit. But in terms of a medium shockwave, it does compare to the Swordmaster's level. So the fact that Shiba is like just dead-ass blitzing this entire attack is an insane feat. He is actually the GOAT. That means Samura can, of course, lock in, but what really matters here is Chihiro. All right. So, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention. There's this panel of Shiba like running and to help everyone, and it looks like when Gojo is like running and killing all the transfigured humans on floor B5. I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was cool. I like it. Even if it's not deliberate, it just, it just tickled me a bit. Anyway, Samura turns around and the narrator picks up again saying, "The man before him is wrecked flesh and bone by the same shockwaves." Now, that's why I thought before it was talking about, Samura being hit by the shockwaves. Chihiro's been hit too. He's pretty beat up, and it says, yet his bloodthirsty gaze never wavers from his foe as he readies his sword. Bro, Chihiro did not get distracted one bit. He stood there, tanked the shockwave, and he is locked. So Samura does what he can. Before Yura has time to land another blow, bro is spreading Suzaku to Chihiro's blood, which is spread on the floor, and that creates a trail of Suzaku flames that lead to Chihiro in this amazing double spread panel where we see Chihiro just on fire, healing all his wounds, ready to EI White Purity style Yura from the back in a what does it say? Decisive strike. Yes, I can read, see? And then we get a little flashbacky thing to like, he killed 200,000 people, Rokuhiro was consumed by regret for forging the enchanted blades, and then Yura saying that the absolute power of the blades should be used to rule. Chihiro is basically sat there going, I won't let that happen, bruv. And they clash. They have a little sword clash, it creates a shockwave. Chihiro screams that this ends right here and now. And one of the most interesting parts of this is that Yura's eyes are no longer black. In that panel, he looks at Chihiro and they've gone back to normal, which looks like he's not using the Sword Saint's power anymore. Now, given the state of it wouldn't be the first time Hokuzono's made a mistake, so this could literally just be an error. He might have black eyes, it's just that he's forgotten to draw on them. That's very possible, has happened a few times. But if we assume that they are meant to be like this, it could be because we see the final panel is the Sword Saint looking kind of sad. It could be that the Sword Saint has decided he doesn't want to align himself with Yura, which is a very interesting concept. He's probably seen Chihiro, looked at his eyes through Yura, and gone, that's Rokuhiro's son, and I'm not killing him. He genuinely could care for this boy significantly, which is a very interesting concept. So, also, he's seeing Yura target civilians in Japan, that the Sword Saint, literally his whole motive was to protect those people. So I don't think the Swordmaster, or Sogo we should call him, is actually aligning himself with Yura here. I think he's, like it said at the beginning of the chapter, which I said to remember, he's probing his intentions. I think he's found his intentions, and his intentions, or at least the means to reach the end goal of Yura's intentions, is he doesn't care about harming the people of Japan, and he doesn't care about cutting down Rokuhiro's son. I do believe the Swordmaster most likely cares deeply for Rokuhiro's son, because I think he had a very strong relationship with Rokuhiro himself, and I also think he cares about the people of the country despite being a terrible person who did commit mass genocide. I would find it incredibly interesting if we end up going on an arc where we have to actually ally ourselves with the Swordmaster, and his decision is something that we have to kind of bear together. I think there's a really interesting, like, some really interesting potential for that, because he does look sad in this panel. Like, the Swordmaster does look sad, and it could be that he's seen Chihiro's Rokuhira eyes, gone, that's his son, and then cut the power off from Yura, which would be a very interesting concept. And I think this is solidifying Yura as like the final boss. I think he is the main villain, and I think we're only going to go up from here. And yeah, it's just an amazing chapter. Shiba carries for me, I'm not going to lie. The Shiba stuff is just unbelievably cool. I absolutely love the narrator edition. I love Samura like spreading Suzaku on the blood on the floor, which like leads a trail to Chihiro. And I really do like this kind of idea in the end about, you know, Yura actually having even more sadistic and evil and extreme ideals than the Swordmaster. It could be that Yura's hatred has somehow surpassed that of the man who had enough hatred to obliterate the entire island. It's a very interesting concept, and I can't wait to see how it gets explored. The only thing I don't understand in this chapter is how Yura's injuries have been healed. Like, Samura just cut straight through his arm. But who knows? I guess we'll find out soon, right? Hokuzono, chill, man. I don't know if like some of these things are just things you forgot, but please look after yourself, you know? You're not seeing this. What am I talking about? I'm not big time enough for that. Anyway, like the video, subscribe, and, you know, just read Kagurabachi.